Hi, everybody. I'm Megan Thompson with Megan Thompson Coaching, and I'm here today to talk about what it takes to parent a highly sensitive child, to stay energized with that, to stay resilient. And the reason why I wanted to talk about it today is because I I've been noticing a theme with my clients and helping them manage the how draining it can be to parent a highly sensitive child. So wanted to get on today to give you some tools on addressing that. And while I have my outline figured out, I struggled getting my toddler down for a nap, so I don't necessarily have notes prepared. Um, but such is life. I'm still here. So when we focus on this, the the biggest thing that's important to recognize is that you know, other parents and you yourself can feel really alone and lonely parenting a highly sensitive child. So this is one of the big things that one of the big reasons why I started the Facebook group, Parent Your Highly Sensitive Child Like a Ninja, and started branching out of my own little nook in Maryland. And that's because I know that parents need this support, and it's hard to collect all of you into, the small little pockets in every corner of the US, and some of you who are watching from overseas or in different countries. So the reason behind that is that I started to notice a trend over the course of my many years working as a therapist and child therapist work and helping parents with parenting, is that a lot of parents of highly sensitive kids, most if not all parents of highly sensitive kids, are not being met with any support that's effective in their communities. So now that might be just who they talk to, like their parents or their friends or their sisters, what have you, because people don't understand what it takes to parent a highly sensitive child. And so that leaves you feeling, like I said, lonely, wondering and questioning whatever the heck you're doing and whether or not it's working, feeling like you're throwing everything at the wall and not knowing what's going to stick because you're trying to take, everybody and their mother's advice, and half of that you're taking it with a grain of salt. The other half you're like, oh, maybe this will work. This sounds like a great magic wand that might help my kid. And it leaves you feeling like, sometimes I use the metaphor of like seaweed just floating in the ocean, like waving around while the waves are just like tossing you over and over, because your kiddo is really struggling. And if you're dealing with daily meltdowns, it can be exhausting and feel like it's taking forever to see any progress, because you're talking over and over again with your kid about what it is that they need to do differently, and it just doesn't seem like anything's working. So I wanted to really speak about that and address how you can manage some of that draining energy and help you find ways to stay focused on your goal, which is to help your child manage their emotions more effectively, but also to feel like an effective parent, which is a byproduct of having a great relationship with your kid. So, it's not just that you get your kid to, after the meltdown, share their emotions with you and share their worries, but the great, the sign of a great relationship is that they come to you before that happens, that they're not holding it all in anymore, and that they're not waiting until the meltdown is processed with you. And so I think it's really important to help parents, and I've talked about this before, help parents see that parenting a highly sensitive child and dealing with daily meltdowns or dealing with meltdowns regularly every week does not go hand in hand. And I'm not going to necessarily go on that soapbox today, because it's something that I've addressed pretty thoroughly over the last several weeks, because it's been such a theme that I've been noticing in the group that I run. But I definitely wanted to touch on it today, because that's part of the issue, is that you need somebody in your corner who can help you stay focused on that, because a lot of parents at this rate would give up. They would tell their kid to suck it up and deal, and they would just check out of the relationship. And so the fact that you're here and listening and watching, and if you're watching live, say hi. If you're catching this on the replay, hashtag replay. So I know that you're focused on this and that this is helpful for you. Comment below. Let me know how you're feeling about it. And it's really important to have that community, but it's also important for you to have some pretty direct strategies of what you can do to beat the naysayers over the head with, metaphorical clubs. So that's another goal that we're going to be addressing today in this conversation, is to have a steadfast resolution that you're parenting your child in a way that's actually effective and going to get you the result that you want, which is, again, feeling that you are connected to your child, that you know what might trigger their overwhelmed emotions, and how to get out ahead of it so that you're not seeing those regular meltdowns as frequently as you see them now. And one of the things that I think is important to do around that is not to just talk about, your sense of self-care and how you take care of yourself, which we'll address today too, in terms of some things that I think are going to be helpful, but also knowing why, and in terms of beating the naysayers over the head, why what you're doing is so effective, and why what you're doing and trying something different and focusing and staying with it is going to work for your family, because you need to be able to say, shut it to the people who are giving you side eye when you're trying something different, and responding to your kids' outbursts in a different way, and getting out ahead of that. So I'm a little delayed with the tech here. I'm just trying to do that out of the side of the picture here. Make sure I get comments if people are I see people watching. But so the thing about that is to help you understand where I'm coming from, and why I know what I know, why I know what I teach works and is effective, and why I'm so steadfastingly confident, because it's not just that that I have the education to back it up, but because I have the results to back it up with the clients that I work with directly. And so I wanted to give more information and share more about the background of this, because the education is important for you as a parent when you try and figure out like who you're going to follow and who you're going to listen to, and why you're going to listen to them, because there's a lot of noise out there, and it's really important to pay attention to that. It could just be like one parent, willy-nilly sharing stuff what works for them, or when you choose to find somebody who knows what they're doing, has results, but then also has the education to back it up, that this is research based, it can help you feel more confident when you have to tell your mom, no, like, I'm not talking to my kid like that, or no, I'm not gonna, put my kid in timeout or whatever. And so, I'm sorry, my husband's texting me. So, got me off track. I wanted to talk about the 4 women who have put me in this place on this earth, out in front of you on Facebook, and have gotten me to this place in supporting highly sensitive kids and their parents more directly through this space, and talk a little bit about my journey and the education around that. And so while I do that, I have to share more about what it is that drives the work and the passion and the confidence that I have in this work. And oh my gosh, he is just trying to figure out what we're doing with our kid. Give me a sec so he doesn't live on Facebook. Sorry, he does not know what's going on. Okay, so this is real life, guys. I feel like one of those, what is this? Us Weekly, like the people are just like us, working mom issues. So, all right, I posted in the group earlier that I was planning on coming live at 12:30 Eastern, but my toddler decided that it was not nap time, even though it was nap time. So you can probably hear the monitor in the background, all that static. So anyways, I'm getting back to what I was talking about. So I wanted to introduce somebody to you and her in terms of the research that I've studied and how I got to this place. Um, and her name is Marcia. Her name is Marcia Linehan. So in the 90s, this woman, Marcia Linehan, decided to study people like herself. So she's a psychologist based out of Seattle who has a pretty tumultuous history. She's a highly sensitive person, and she didn't realize it, obviously, but she experienced some pretty significant mental health issues in her early years, like 20s and I think teens, if I'm correct, in and out of hospitals with self-harm and self-harm issues and constant suicidality, like thoughts of wanting to kill herself. And this was something that she'd experienced throughout her life, but then acted on those urges as a teen and an adult. And then was able to address some pretty significant lifestyle changes that helped move her out of that pain, and decided to study whether or not there were people like her and develop a particular type of therapy that was helpful for her. And what she decided and discovered in her research was that there are people who are born sensitive. And so that's the highly sensitive personality trait that I teach about and speak about what's effective in parenting highly sensitive kids. And then when they grew, what she discovered is that when they grow up in an invalidating environment, they end up like her. So there's a ton of people in the world who end up with chronic thoughts of suicide and chronic attempts to hurt themselves. And they really struggle with therapy, and they're in and out of different, hospital settings, and therapists actually frequently put a huge stigma, like you don't want somebody like this on your caseload, because it's really difficult to treat somebody like that. And so without Marcia, without knowing what Marcia teaches. And so Marcia developed a specific type of treatment that's really intensive to keep people out of the hospital, keep highly sensitive people out of the hospital and out of long-term care and therapy. And it's effective. It's really, really effective. And so I learned her work many years ago. And over the course of the years, I've taken many, many hours in her treatment modality. And I've always wanted to work with younger children and started my work working with younger children. So I applied it to working with teens, and it was really effective in that respect. And so what I learned over the years is that her what she teaches can be used to prevent this type of behavior for adults when you teach it effectively. And so that's one of the core things that I teach parents, is to how to not invalidate their child in a chronic way, because what Marcia discovered is that you don't have to have a traumatized childhood to end up with chronic suicidal thoughts and actions, and dangerous and risky behaviors. It's not just suicidal thoughts. You can just live in a household with a poor fit between parents and child. And if parents don't understand you and you are highly sensitive, you can end up like Marcia. And so she researched this and found lots of people all over the U.S. who are just like that. And that's what led to her treatment modality. So anyways, to get back to why I do what I do, her research started in the 90s and has continued and perfected and spread throughout the therapy world. But it's still a pretty long process. It takes, the more effective model takes at least a year to get out of that, difficult space for people. And so it's because it's pretty intense if you're thinking about wanting to kill yourself over and over and over again on a daily basis, then you need pretty intense work to keep yourself out of the hospital. So that's Marcia. And she, learning her work really resonated with me because it was really important for me to stay focused on what actually works when you're working with people who are experiencing significant pain in their lives. And Several years later, I came across Elaine Aron's work, and she's probably one whom you're more familiar with. She wrote the book, The Highly Sensitive Child. And she actually started studying in the 90s whether or not people who are highly sensitive exist as well. But from a different place, she's just wanted to learn more about highly sensitive people, not necessarily highly sensitive people who grow up with chronic suicidal thoughts and chronic aggressive behavior. Um, and she studied and she backed up the research that Marcia found, is that when children grow up in an invalidating environment and they're highly sensitive, they can really struggle and develop some pretty significant mental health issues. So it's really important for you, and how to address that, what to take from the information that I've shared with you, is that what you're doing and learning and paying attention to by following me, and changing the way that you parent your child is a direct skill to combat the naysayers and to stay energized as a parent of a highly sensitive child, because we talked about before, it's really draining. And knowing that your decisions are backed not just in like anecdotes, stories of people who have done better, but research and data and studies that have been done all over the course of the United States and across and abroad as well, can be really helpful for you to stand your ground when other parents are like, well, just tell your kid to suck it up, or they just need more timeouts, or whatever baloney they're trying to shove down your throat. And at that point, it's important to pay attention to the response that you're having in that moment, and whether or not you're able to experience that confidence and share that confidence in parenting, your parenting decisions, um, in a way that is not anxiety producing. And so, keep watching what I have to say so that you can feel more confident. And that's one of the strategies that I'm focusing on today, is to keep learning, to continue to stay informed about what's working. Make sure that you have a way or a pattern to catch what I'm talking about, because it helps feed that sense of community that that you need in order to feel like you're not alone in this whole process of parenting your highly sensitive child in a different way than 80% of the population would respond. Like we talked about before, highly sensitive people are 20% of the population. So the other 80% does just fine with, or, seemingly just fine. I have my own opinions with like various traditional parenting strategies. And it's also true that highly sensitive children actually do very, very poorly with traditional parenting strategies. And so much so that they can develop pretty significant mental health issues as a direct result of poor parenting strategies, and more traditional parenting strategies. And so when I talk about in my group, when kiddos are starting to think about whether or not life would go on if they weren't around, that's super serious and a big sign that that something's not working in your parenting environment. Because, as I mentioned before, highly sensitive kids who grow up in an invalidating environment can engage in some really risky and dangerous and life-threatening behaviors, and it's no joke. And so if your strategy is to teach your child to button up their emotion, or if that's what their response is to whatever it is that you're teaching, then this is a serious problem for your kiddo, because if they're buttoning up their emotions, then they are exploding. Obviously, we see that, but that's going to move into worse behaviors than what you're seeing now, without a significant plan to turn that around. So I wanted to talk more about not just the research, because I know that there's a human connection other than just the fact that I'm, know what I'm talking about. But I've said this before, my sister is highly sensitive. And so I also have the familial connection to the fact that our family did not know that she was highly sensitive. And we struggled with thinking that something was wrong with her, as opposed to noticing that there was something not very effective in the family environment. And And when we shifted that, things got better in our relationships and in our household. And I think that's a key thing to pay attention to, that when you as a parent are steadfast in your decision to pay attention to what it is that's draining your energy, and is that the people who are trying to teach you how to parent that are not effective, or is it the fact that you're not taking care of yourself ahead of time, or is it the fact that you're not um, really aware of what does work for parenting highly sensitive kids? Then you are going to be exhausted at the end of the evening. You are going to feel alone parenting your child. You are going to feel like everybody's against you, like the teachers are giving you side eye, and they should be, versus they just lack the information that you have, which is, when I work directly with parents, and my clients will say they feel like they know how to talk to the parents, how to talk to teachers and therapists involved, and other professionals involved, in a way that the pediatricians, in a way that helps them become part of the team, as opposed to you just feeling like you're out on an island, learning and helping your child all on your own. And so when you think about who is in your corner, it's important to pay attention to what drains your energy as well. What relationships drain your energy, and how can you set some more effective boundaries around that, so that you're not venting in that respect to those people who are going to tell you to do the exact opposite of what you know is true. And so that you're spending more time taking care of yourself, so that you can be readily available for your child and more present and effective in managing their meltdowns. So that's my key point for you today. Points I should have said. I covered a bunch of stuff, but to recap is to pay attention to what it is that you're doing to help yourself manage your own energy. So paying attention to those, using calm down strategies yourself and managing that effectively yourself. And then tuning in to what I'm sharing, so that you have the tools and the research to back up your response to what the naysayers are, the traditional parenting cheerleaders are going to say to you when you're responding to your kid in a different way. And lastly, paying attention to your own environment and see what's draining you, because if it's draining you, then you're not going to be able to create an environment that's not so draining for your child. And so that kind of goes full circle. The whole reason why you're here is to decrease the struggles that your child is having. And I see a couple of you are here, so thanks for watching, Katie and Melissa. Nice to see you. So I wanted to, I guess, sum up at that point to recognize that if you need support in figuring out what it is that's draining you, or how to tackle those meltdowns, or what it is that you need to be doing differently in your own perspective and mindset, so that you feel more secure and confident in the strategies that you choose to parent your child, and use ones that are actually productive and effective in creating a long-term change for your child, so that they don't end up just complying to comply at home, but because they feel better, and because your relationship with your child is actually better than it is now, then I can definitely support you with that more directly. And the best way I know how to do that is to have a conversation with you over the phone. So my schedule call link is here, and I'll post it in the comments below. I wanted to see if there's anybody who's watching who has questions, or if you catch this on the replay, because I know it's a random time, and I earlier said that I was going live at 12:30, but my kiddo had a different idea. And if you have questions, I have a few minutes to take care of that, but then I have to take care of the rest of the stuff I had planned when my child was supposed to be napping 2 hours ago. So I'm gonna wrap it up after that. So I see some hearts and waves. So thanks for saying hi, and I hope that you guys have a good Friday. This is how I show up on Friday, with my semi-professional outfit, a workout shirt and a scarf. So full disclosure, there is life happening in here in the Thompson household. Um, lots of that going on. So I wanted to just take a minute. I'll take a drink and see if there's more questions. And then other than that, make sure that you share what I talked about today with loved ones. I made it public for that reason, because you really need to have that and hold that in your heart, that this is the plan. This is the way you're going to be living your life differently. And when you have that purpose laid out for yourself, then it's easier to figure out where the motivation lies to live a less exhausting life. It's easier to make that decision, and it's easier to decide to do something about it when you know that what you're doing is effective, and what you're doing is avoiding the worst case scenario, which might not necessarily be between now and tomorrow, but the long game is definitely, everybody sets goals for their child. You want to see your kiddo succeed in professions, but you also want to have them, you want them to be emotionally successful. So if you think about preparing them and eliminating those daily meltdowns today, means that you are avoiding a lifetime of mental health issues for your child tomorrow and 5 years from now. So I know a lot of the stuff that I teach is how to address some stuff that's going on now, but I really think that it's important for you to know why I branched out this way, and because of what I believe. I believe that the work you're doing right now as your child's parent is setting your child up for their future. And if you don't have specific goals on how to address that emotional well-being for your child, then I can tell you your kiddo or somebody else is going to have goals for them. And those might not be the goals that you want that for them. So think about that and taking charge of that, and how you can pay attention to staying steadfast in that decision so that you can stay motivated and keep your energy high, and keep the perspective that a ninja parent needs, which is certainty. Certainty and confidence that what you're doing is effective, because ninjas pay attention to all of the things coming on so they can block the punches from behind them or whatever, thinking about channeling Bruce Lee or Chuck Norris. Then that's what you need to be doing. So if you want more direct support with that, reach out for a phone call, and we'll talk about what that looks like for your family. But I think that's it. I see a couple of you watching, but I don't see any questions, so I'm gonna close out. Oh my gosh, I forgot that to mention that I have another free training, the bigger one, coming out, and I'll post that to the group. I've got some of the website tech issues that I'm just reviewing, which is another reason why I had to finish talking to you, so that I can get that set up for you. So that's another one that's going to be coming. Stay tuned. I'm hoping to have it figured out and posted by the end of the day. Okay, thanks. I'll talk to you later, and I'll post that in the group. Okay, bye.